Hiya! Today we're making ReMode's Origami Bag. These instructions are for a sewing machine, but the bag can also be sewn by hand. Just follow the same instructions but altered to suit. You'll need fabric for the main bag, fabric for your lining, fabric scissors or sharp scissors, thread, dressmaker's pins, a measuring tape, tailor's chalk, a ReMode label for the outside of your bag and a care label for the inside, and a ruler could be handy too if you have one. The first step is to cut your fabric to size. Using your measuring tape, measure the correct length and width of your desired size. We're making a small bag in this video, which is perfect as an evening bag for all your essentials. Cut your lining in the exact same way. Your lining and your main fabric should be identical in size. Next, we'll fold the fabric to make the shape of the bag. With the right side of the fabric facing up, fold the bottom corner up and then fold the top corner down. We'll now fold diagonally as if there were a line running across the middle section. This will be the base of your bag. Holding the point of the bottom right corner, fold diagonally up. This will align the edges and creates your basic bag shape, the base and two sides. Pin the bag together down these edges. Flip over and repeat on the other side. Repeat these previous steps for your lining, folding and pinning to make up the bag. Now we'll start sewing. Set up your sewing machine with a matching thread and set it to sew a running stitch. Sew down both of the seams you've just pinned using a 1 cm seam allowance. Make sure to back tack at the start and end of your sewing. This will secure your sewing and stop it from unravelling. You should now sew your ReMode label somewhere on the front of your bag. It's up to you where you place it, but pin it on first and sew down each side a few millimetres from the edge. We'll now sew the main seams of our lining. Make sure to sandwich your care label in one of the inside seams beforehand. It should be folded in half and placed flush with the edge of the fabric to ensure it gets trapped properly when you sew it in. Once you've pinned that on, sew down both seams in the same way as you sewed your main fabric, with a running stitch and 1 cm seam allowance. If you have an overlocker, you can now overlock all the seams on your main fabric and your lining to stop the fabric from fraying, or use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Then use an iron to press all the seams nice and flat. Now we'll pin our lining and our main fabric together. To do this, leave your main bag inside out and turn your lining the right way round. Next, stuff your lining into the main bag with right sides together, matching up the seams and the corners. Now pin around the top edge of the bag through both layers. Leave an opening of around 10 cm somewhere in your pins. I mark this using double pins at the start and end point, so that when I come to sew this seam, I'm prompted to stop before I go too far. Using a running stitch, sew around the edge you've just pinned. This is the outer edges of the bag and will hold your lining and your main fabric together. Remember to stop sewing when you hit the double pins in order to leave the 10 cm opening. We'll use this to bag out our lining afterwards, so it's really important. Also, make sure to back tack securely at the beginning and end of your sewing. Using your sharp scissors, snip into the corners of the bag, snipping up to but not into your stitches. This will help it sit better when you turn it the right way round. Now we'll bag out our lining through the gap you left in the previous step. Reach into the opening and grab your lining. Pull the lining through the opening and keep pulling until you also pull the main bag through the opening. Now tuck the lining of the bag down into the exterior of your bag, matching up the corners. You might want to use a pencil or something sharp to push the corners out and help them sit neat and flat. Be careful here, you don't want to push too hard and burst through the seam. Now iron all around this outer edge to help it sit nice and flat before we top stitch it. I've ironed it so that my lining shows just a little over the top edge as it makes a nice design feature. Use pins to close the opening we left. We'll top stitch this edge now and it'll close the gap at the same time. Carefully top stitch all around, just a few millimetres from the bag's edge. Now we'll finish the bag by making our handle. Take both long edges and overlap them by a few centimetres squared. Use a pin to keep them in place and sew round in a square shape to secure them together. For extra security, sew a cross shape through the square. It needs to be sewn securely so that it doesn't come apart during use. And you're done. Please let us know how you got on and tag us in any social media so that we can see your creation. Bye for now.